Hi, I'm Kayanne, and I am a mixed media artist, and I have just finished a sketchbook and thought I would share it with you, do a little flip through. I finished this one kind of in record time. Usually I'll spend a year or even more because I work in multiple sketchbooks at one time. But this one I began just before we went on a trip. It's pretty much the only one I worked on the trip. Just various circumstances, I spent a little bit more time in this one, and therefore filled it up a little quicker. So also this is the first time I've put stickers on the cover. I don't know why. Sometimes I'll put like one sticker on the cover, like centered, and that's how this started. But I thought I had these other stickers. I thought, what else should I do with those? So I'm going to have to look up this artist, and I'll try to put her name in the description. This is one of my own stickers. These two are by Flimsy Fox. This is by Roxanne Coble of bybun. This one I will also have to look up. This one's by Depew Media, and I have no idea on these two. So that's those. I haven't decided yet whether that's something I'll do again or not. It does make it very identifiable because I have all these like black sketchbooks, and just at a glance I can tell which one this is. So it does have that advantage. So we'll see. Maybe. So to start with, I put the label on it. I've started doing that because even though this is Strathmore, it doesn't specifically tell me which one. So I've started doing that with my sketchbooks a little bit more, just so I can keep track. And so that's the the front label that I took off. This was just my name tag from something that has my name. And this was, I started it July 27th and finished it September 2nd, so just slightly more than 1 month. Mainly did it in the month of August. So this was something I did in the car, and it's just something that I made up, but I do a lot of my things from imagination, I guess. Not everything. I had references for some things, and my sketchbooks are just a little bit of everything. If they need to be a notebook, they're a notebook. If I need to draw an idea, they're that. If I want to do something a little bit more finished, I also do that. So they are whatever I need them to be. So there's all kinds of things you might find in there. So this was just a little bit of word art. I actually did it first. I often almost always leave the front page blank, thinking I'm going to come back and do something clever with it later, and I, of course, hardly ever do. But I thought, okay, this time I'm just going to start in. I kind of like the idea of putting a quote or something, a little bit different here, so I kind of like that way of starting. But so there's that. This was done in the car. Like I said, I started it when we were gone on a trip. So I had my little travel watercolors and a water brush and this on my lap, and my husband was driving, and I did some painting. So this was, well, actually both of these. This and this were done traveling in the car. This was, we had spent the night at a rest stop, and I always get up earlier than my husband does, and so there was this beautiful sunrise, but it was still kind of dark, so I kind of did this in the dark, but I just kind of, it's not any good, but it was fun to do. And then I was trying out this brush pen, and I just did a little bit of writing about, that morning. So here's, part journal too, I guess. This was I think a list of some books I want to read. I'm starting to do a series on YouTube of kind of like book reviews and my inspiration I get from them. So these were, you know, some ideas for that. This was, our destination was Minnesota, where I had 2 art shows, 2 consecutive weekends, and also visiting our daughter that lives up there. And so we'd been there before, so this one was just kind of a scene from Lake Superior of memory. In between the art shows, which were both in Minneapolis, we planned to go up to the North Shore for a few vacation days. So I was looking forward to that. So this was just kind of anticipation. These are done, I think, with like Neocolor crayons primarily. I had limited supplies with me, so I had to, you know, make do with what I had. I think I also used those soft pastels on here. It looks like the texturing in there looks like it might be soft pastel. So I had some supplies along that I wanted to do some experimenting with also, so there was a bit of that in here. This is, I'm going to cover those up because that's a list of prompts that I will share later. So again, I'm writing notes in there, plus some little tiny thumbnail type sketches. This is not good. I'm not a good drawer, I would say, as an artist. And it sounds strange, I know, but my drawing is my weak point. I'm very creative, but I am not necessarily a good drawer, which is part of the reason I've been working in Sketchbook, is to practice. So I don't like this, but you know, you just have to do it to get over that hump. You just have to keep doing it. So this was at one of the art shows, and during slow times I'd just do like a quick sketch of someone that was, you know, going past the front of the booth. And, you know, they weren't there very long, 30 seconds maybe, so I had to kind of quick get them down. And so that's what that is. And, you know, none of these, they weren't all there at the same time. These are, you know, various people that went by. So this was, my daughter has a cool vase that has a face on 4 sides, I believe, or is it 3? I don't know. It's all in white, very pretty. But it kind of got me thinking about the idea of a face on a vase. My mother used to have some pieces that had faces. I think maybe that used to be more popular. And so it kind of reminded me of that. So I made this vase with a face on it. So that was that. This is done in gouache. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it's gouache. It's all gouache, because that's what I had with me, which is something I'm trying to learn to deal with more. I did use some Neocolor on here also, so there is a bit of that. This was experimenting with using chalk pastels or soft pastels with other medium, and so I did first lay down a bunch of the soft pastel and doodled with some markers and wet it with water and just kind of had a playtime with it. And then I went in and painted the negative spaces first with this kind of coral color. This is also gouache. And then went back on top of it with this blue. And this was an acrylic gouache, so it did not reactivate when I painted the blue on top. And this was another page of experimenting. As sort of at one of the shows we were at, this was sort of the scene. It was in a park, and you know, it was pretty. But I wasn't so much after that as I was doing some more experimenting with my materials. I've often used soft pastels as the finishing touch on top of like matte acrylics, but this time I used it as the underpainting. I used the soft pastels and then used them with water, which makes some beautiful texturing. And then I did some experimenting with different materials too. I added watercolor and Neocolor crayon, colored pencils, Tombow marker, and then finally some gouache, and did, you know, like little mark making, and then I wrote on top of it with a Jelly Roll pen. So it's kind of just saying what will work on top of that. And so that was not a very attractive page, but a very valuable one as far as, you know, the things I learned from just doing some experimentation. So that's what that one was all about. This, we went to one of our favorite places, Grand Marais, close to the Canadian border along Lake Superior, and I sat at a harbor there. My husband went on a bicycle ride, and I sat at a harbor and did some watercolor sketching. Again, that's not something I normally do. I normally draw out illustrations in pencil and then ink them and then watercolor them. You know, that type of things in my sketchbook. This, I no pencil, just started in with watercolor and started painting, you know, what I saw. And so, you know, I feel like that was a good little practice session and fond memories of a beautiful place that we enjoy. So double duty there. This was playing with some gouache. I did some experiment here with watering them down and with using, I can't remember, I think those were colored pencil maybe, on top of them, you know, just some experimentation. Did a little color mixing and made these blobs. Then I drew some foliage on top of the blobs. Did this little piece where I actually took the time to tape the borders. It's interesting. It gives me some ideas. Like, I don't like this as is, but it kind of gives me some ideas that I might spring off of. This little idea of the kind of stained glass branches look was kind of intriguing to me. So I don't know, you know, some of those ideas might show up again. The color combination I thought was interesting. So again, this is like my learning place. Then I had the idea to do some borders. On my Patreon, I often give people digital sheets that they can use bits in their own, like planners or journals or, you know, whatever they're doing. And so I had this idea of it'd be fun to have these strips with different landscapes that you could just put across the bottom of a page, you know, and kind of show where you were, whether it was in the city or on a farm or like Lake Superior. So this was my kind of sketch out of the idea, and then I actually went in and just had some fun just watercoloring. This was a place we visited called Betty's Pies. We didn't actually have pie, but I just felt like I should paint a piece of pie on there because that's kind of what they're known for. My husband had a pasty, which is not something we have here in Kansas, and so I, you know, kind of just did a little sketch of that. And I also bought postcards there, so this is supposed to be a postcard. They had a lot of Minnesota scene postcards, and that's where I got several postcards from my grandkids and different people there. So that's what that's supposed to be. I had this kind of space left over after I did this, so I thought, oh, I'll add a postcard in there. This is just some foliage that I observed. We did do a little bit of camping and you know, walking around some different places. It's always interesting to me how much different some of the foliage looks, you know, in Minnesota than it does here in Kansas. So I just did some looking at that and some sketching, playing again with my materials. This, I'm not happy with it, but I kind of like the idea of it. It started out, I was thinking about like doll heads, like those German bisque dolls where they find them where, you know, there used to be a factory and they just find all these thrown away, I guess, doll heads, so probably the imperfect ones or whatever. So some of them started out having these busts and then they just looked weird, and I was trying out just different ways of, illustrating little kind of cartoony type faces. Anyway, some of them are really weird, and none of them are really good, but you know, just kind of gave me the idea, look at how much diversity there is, made me think of people in general, and so then I just added these words to it. This was, I was trying out some different ideas for foxes. This one actually did become an art piece. So, you know, sometimes they do lead to something, but I was just kind of sketching up. Some of them are pretty bad. Once in a while, you just need one once in a while to turn out good. This was, again, I was sitting somewhere while my husband went on a bike ride, and it was a lot of pretty plants just right in front of me, and I just started drawing just straight with ink some of the different plants that, you know, I was looking at that were right in front of me. I don't know what they are or anything, but I just did, you know, kind of drawing of them. These are really useful to me when I go to do artwork sometimes, that I can go back and kind of just have a reference of, give me ideas, you know, of different plant types. So that's kind of valuable. This is an artist I met at one of the art shows. I bought a couple of his prints. I was just intrigued with his technique. And so this is his card, and I just kind of wrote a, because he kind of explained to me some how he did some things, which was really interesting. So I kind of tried to jot that down real quick, which, you know, that was great of him to share his technique. I think he does teach workshops as well, but that was really fun to see his work, and just beautiful, beautiful work. His name is Dan Weimer, W-I-E-M-E-R. So you can look him up sometime. This is in anticipation for trying to make some monsters for my patrons in October, and friendly monsters. And so I was just, I don't know which of these, if any, will make it. Some of them might. Like, I really like this one. I really like this guy for some reason. We'll see. But so I was just kind of playing around with that. This is kind of more of the same, only a little less developed. I kind of like this guy. These masks I kind of like. I think maybe they have some potential, but those are just pencil sketch. So, you know, we'll see. You just sketch a lot of things, and some of them, once in a while, you can use some of them. This was trying out some materials. I had gotten these new watercolors, and I will have to look up because I keep forgetting who makes these. But I really like them. They're kind of like, I think of them as my graph tint watercolors. I can't remember if that's the official name of it or not, but their hues are very pretty. Like, this is the violet, this is the green. They all look a little I don't know, dark and mysterious, and so I enjoyed those. This was some just matte acrylic. No. Yes, this was some matte acrylic that I just painted up here with intentions of doing some more play up here. I probably won't get back to it, but that was my thought at the time. I was going to do like maybe some watercolor and soft pastel again on top of this. This was inspired by the face on a magazine, which did not end up looking much like it, but I don't know. I kind of like it a little. I don't know. It's interesting. Then here, following that face on the vase, then I had the idea for this face on the, which that kind of reminds me of Beauty and the Beast. Doesn't look like those, but the idea of a teapot or a coffee pot and a cup. But it was interesting. Weird things like that kind of intrigue me sometimes. And this was a mix of gouache and, I believe, colored pencil on this. This, along with the, monster theme. I was kind of trying out. I was noticing how interesting the zipper on a pencil pouch looks, and just all the different possibilities. It could be eye openings, which I don't like this illustration. It could be something peeking out from the pencil pouch. That's got possibilities. And then I did this where it's the zipper opening is the mouth, and I actually kind of like that little guy. It's probably something my patrons will get. I had a request for doing some illustrations on that expressed grief, so I did this little guy was one of them that I did. This was you've probably already seen. I think I already posted a video on my swatch dolls. I had some new watercolors, some Bibiba watercolors that I swatched out as these people, and so this is a page of those. Those did also become little bits for my patrons. Here, just a mix. This is a mix of colored pencil and paint pens in combination to create this owl and this little night scene. And then this is gouache, almost entirely, with a little bit of matte acrylic. I think the white is matte acrylic and the rest is gouache. So that was kind of fun and interesting. Again, I'm still working with gouache, trying to see what it does and learn how to use it. This was inspired by Miriam Tillison, and she does these really great and meaningful and interesting and slightly dark illustrations, but they kind of like express some truths or something. Anyway, she had posted one called Secrets or Lies. These do not look at all like hers. Hers are wonderful. You should go look up. But it this is the idea of it, and her title. From there, I just did this because it launched all kinds of thoughts, just looking at her artwork, and I just kind of wanted to record some of that, and just like all the things that started, going through my mind as I looked at her artwork. So this is just kind of to express all of that. This was little 2-minute drawings that was from a Zoom hosted by Becca Hall to draw, where everyone just drew. She put up images, provided the images, and then we all just, drew for a timed amount. And so these were 2-minute drawings. And pets are something that I have not done a lot of, but I kind of want to do more of. So the ones that I painted a background on are my favorites of the page. So I do kind of like that cat. I think I could, do something with a little bit more time, maybe develop these a little bit. My favorite though is this little guinea pig. I don't know, there's just something about this little guinea pig I really like, and it's just, this really simple little quick sketch. I probably even actually spent less than 2 minutes on these smaller ones. And this was a Zoom drawing thing, which I'm just kind of started discovering these, and I think I'm going to try to do them more, because then I don't have to go anywhere, or take my time going anywhere. I can do them just through Zoom, and somebody's providing the images and setting the timer, which in theory I could also do, but it's fun because you get to see what other people do too at the end. Anybody that wants to share can share. I always catch them. I never am able to watch them when they're live, so these are reruns, I guess you would say, on their Patreon site. And but I do see them as being a little very beneficial way to practice, and I need some practice, but I do, I hear all the time that people don't have time to work in their sketchbook. Well, these were 2-minute drawings. You can find 2 minutes sometime in your day to do one little sketch. These were 10-minute drawings, and you know, I think 10 minutes, if it's something you really want to do, you can find 10 minutes somewhere, you know, to do one little drawing. I didn't even do these all in one setting, like in one, you know, I came back to it since I was watching the replay anyway. I kind of like this little guy and how he turned out. He's reading a newspaper here, and I don't know how much he looks like the actual guy, or, you know, the reference image, but I still like it anyway. I'm not that concerned about replicating an image or making it look like the person. I'm more just interested with getting the feel of the scene. This in anticipation for October, Halloween, and my October patrons and some things they might get, was kind of exploring the idea of these houses and maybe kind of some spooky houses. So this is a house I was just kind of quick sketching up. Not even when I did pencil first. In fact, I just had this purple ballpoint pen that I started with, and just kind of went from there to see what I could draw up and how to make it look. Spooky is not something I do a lot of, so a little bit of a stretch for me, but I thought it was kind of interesting. This was when I was trying out those same watercolors that I did the Swatch people with. I did this page of just, you know, seeing how they bleed together and run together on the page. This, I just had an urge one night. It was like before I went to bed, and I just had this urge. Well, actually, it was after I'd gone to bed. But I had this urge to draw some flowers, and so I grabbed what was handy, got up, grabbed I had a purple ballpoint pen and a blue Tombow marker, and that's what I did these with. And then the next day I went back with water to see if it would, you know, bleed out a little bit, and it did a little bit, but not very much. So that's that. And then I decided I wanted more of those little strips that I had made for my patrons, and so I made a whole nother little sheet of those. I really like this southwest one and the arch there, like Arches National Park. I don't know, something about that. It's very simple, and these are ones I just watercolored. You know, I didn't do any drawing or anything first. I just had fun with my watercolor. On this page, I was still working on the idea of trying to do spooky things, and you know, so this is another just real quick little house I did, and then I was just kind of looking. These were along the line of some images by some street artists in a book I had, and I was just kind of like, oh, I like that pen and ink style. And these are kind of similar to the doodle heads that I've been doing, just maybe a little bit more, pretty similar, just a little different. So I did some of those. Then I filled in the space with these trees, these kind of spooky tree characters. Then I was looking at some Tim Burton, which I think I've already posted a video on that, of The Art of Tim Burton. It's a huge book, and I was looking through it and kind of trying to be inspired and kind of studying his style a little bit. And so I think most of these characters, maybe not all of them, but at least some of them were maybe kind of Tim Burton inspired. I know the bats were as well. And then I just put It's the Ghouls Night Out on here, and I really like the look of having the house painted and the rest of it just in black and white. I originally thought I would watercolor all of it, but I kind of like the look of it this way, so I'm not sure if I will watercolor it or not. I just kind of like it as is. So that was fun to do. This is some of the notes that I took when I was studying the Tim Burton style. So if you've watched that video, you've already seen these pages. This was looking at Tim Burton and the faces that were all kinds of different shapes, and so I thought, man, you know, I guess you could make a face out of any shape, and so I just drew some different shaped blobs on here and then turned them into faces. So that was just a fun little thing to do. This was while I was kind of in the groove of that. I had the idea for this. Kind of was thought-provoking to me. I did this little illustration about the Let Sleeping Dogs Lie. This was from an illustration by Eric Calcane from Italy, and again, it's not a very good replication, but he had this frog in a cardboard box paddling, so definitely has a copy of his idea. But it kind of got me to thinking, like, all kinds of things you could do in a cardboard box, and then the cardboard box also, you know, became the little upside down cardboard box here. Anyway, I could see a whole lot of cardboard box type ideas following that, but I did enjoy his illustration. This is more Tim Burton notes as I kind of continued looking at his book, so you can find out more about that in the video. And then this is a page that I did at the very beginning, and this is also a video I've already, because I was kind of deciding which sketchbook to use to take on the trip with me, and it was between this Strathmore Mixed Media one and the Stillman and Byrne Zeta journal, which is the next one I'm going to use. And the difference really came down to, so I painted, you know, use similar materials like watercolor and I think gouache, maybe ink, Neocolor tube, different things, all on both of these, and they behave somewhat similarly. But the difference between the Zeta has smoother, it's like a hot press finish. It's also mixed media. It has a hot press finish. I do think, I've just barely started in it with some inking. I do think it's nicer for inking. It's a little bit more like the Moleskine sketchbook as far as inking, but yet better than the Moleskine sketchbook, I believe, for watercolor. So it's the next one I'll be using next, Mixed in Line. And so that's what that page is about. This is, I always use the back page as just the place to clean off my travel water brush that I'm using when I'm on the go. I use this Pentel water brush, and you know, to clean it off between colors, I just brush it off on, always inside the back cover is where I do that. Every different journal or notebook or Hobonichi or whatever I'm using has a back that looks like this. Then this is also washi tape that I use. I think I only did it once in this book, but like if I'm going to mask off, you know, a place to paint, I intended to do that more, but just didn't. Then I'll use this, and then I reuse it, so it's just stuck back here ready for me to reuse. But in the process, it makes kind of pretty tape that I may pull off and use on something, I don't know. So this is the sticker off of a washi tape I purchased while we were on the trip. So that's kind of how my sketchbooks go, and I really enjoyed working in this one. I would buy another Strathmore Mixed Media. It's got a little bit of tooth to it, but is still fairly smooth. It handled the media, all the media I threw at it, it handled pretty well. So that's my sketchbook, and I encourage all of you to keep a sketchbook as well. It's brought me a lot of joy, as well as good learning and reference, I guess, like the plants. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.